How does one go from being a mogul to millions of dollars in debt? I don't know. But we're gonna call this one an egomaniac's nightmare, starring Damon Dame Dash. Recently, it was reported that the court had ordered Dash to sell his film studio and also his streaming network. This comes on the heels of Dash being ordered to pay $4 million to producer Josh Weber after losing a defamation lawsuit. But what in the heck went wrong? Well, let's see. Damon Dame Dash is a name synonymous with the golden age of hip-hop and hip-hop entrepreneurship. As one of the founders of Roc-A-Fella Records, he helped launch and manage the career of Jay-Z, transforming streetwise ambition into a cultural empire. He showed brothers, specifically those with street pharmacies, if you know what I mean, that a life like that could be better if you wanted it to be. Yet while Dash's influence on music, fashion, and film is undeniable, his journey has also been marked by a series of legal disputes, financial troubles, and public controversies. So it all begins with the baby, old Roc-A-Fella Records. In 1995, Damon Dash, Kareem Biggs Burke, and an up-and-coming rapper by the name of Jay-Z founded Roc-A-Fella Records. At the time, no major label wanted to sign Jay-Z, so the three of them decided to form their own. Dash took on the role of manager and executive, aggressively promoting Jay-Z's debut album, Reasonable Doubt. The record's success launched the label and made Dash a rising star in hip-hop business circles. On another note, for the community, it was great. Jay-Z turned that 2 to a 4, the 4 to an 8. He turned his life into a nice first week release date. And everybody knew what that meant. And we loved where he was coming from. We loved to see the come up. And Dash was right there with him. Dash was widely regarded as the business brain behind Roc-A-Fella. So for those of us that did not have the talent like Jay-Z, because y'all don't want to see me rap, we knew that success was still possible because there was a Dame Dash. And he didn't need that talent that Jay-Z had because he was a man behind the man. He orchestrated distribution deals, negotiated contracts, and expanded that brand into fashion and film. Now we're gonna talk about the fashion, but let's talk about the film first. State Property, starring Damon Dash and artists such as Jay-Z, Rel, Memphis Bleak, and Beanie Siegel, became an instant cult classic. And then come Paid in Full. Paid in Full was starring Wood Harris, Mekhi Phifer, Esai Morales, Chi McBride, Elise Neal, Regina Hall, and Ron Cephas Jones. He was putting people on in the business before they even knew it was a business. And under his leadership, Roc-A-Fella signed major artists like Beanie Siegel, Cameron, Kanye West, that's right, Kanye West, and co-launched rocawear, a streetwear brand that became a massive financial success. At its height, rocawear was doing about $700 million a year. Dash's hustler mentality, flair, and unapologetic confidence defined a generation of hip-hop moguls. And it's reported that Damon Dash's net worth reached about $50 million. And that was really good for a person who will admit that he came from nothing. But there's a saying that money and power only amplify what you really are. And beneath the surface, the cracks in the foundation began to form. And Dash's relationships, both personal and professional, began to deteriorate, and signs of discord emerged between him and Jay-Z. By the early 2000s, tensions between Jay-Z and Dash had escalated. When Roc-A-Fella Records was acquired by Def Jam and Island Def Jam Music Group, Jay-Z was appointed president of Def Jam. That split became public in 2004 when Jay-Z bought out Dash's and Big's stake in Roc-A-Fella and took control of the rocawear clothing brand. He later sold it to Iconics for $204 million. Oh my gosh. It has been reported, however, that Dash received $22.5 million as a result of the sale. So that's not a bad day at the office. But the breakup left Dash embittered and marginalized. And he publicly accused Jay-Z of betrayal and corporate sabotage. More than a personal rupture, the split marked a professional turning point that Dash would spend the next 2 decades attempting to rebuild his empire with varying degrees of success and a mounting pile of legal troubles. After the Roc-A-Fella fallout, Dash attempted to recreate his success through new ventures like Damon Dash Music Group, Dash Films, and America Magazine. I don't know where that one came from. Yet none matched the cultural or financial success that he had in his previous businesses. And by 2009, reports began to surface that Dash was seriously in financial trouble. In 2012, he revealed to the court in court documents that he owed millions in taxes to New York and the IRS. His homes in Tribeca and Westchester were foreclosed. And by 2014, Dash claimed he was unable to pay basic expenses and was embroiled in multiple lawsuits. Among the most significant of his debt was the IRS tax debt that he owed over $2 million in state and federal taxes, which led to liens on his properties and frozen bank accounts. He also had child support cases. Dash was sued by multiple ex-partners, including fashion designer Rachel Roy and singer Cindy Morales, for unpaid child support. He must not learn the saying that we know it's cheaper to keep her. You know what I mean? Because, that's a lot of money. In one 2015 judgment, a judge ordered him to pay nearly $350,000 in back payments and legal fees. He defaulted in loans, and he was ordered to pay $300,000 judgment to producer Judge Weber and Muddy Water Pictures for failing to promote the film Dear Frank and engaging in intimidating and harassing behavior on set. One of Dash's most high-profile legal battles was with his ex-wife, Rachel Roy, over the custody of their children and the control of her fashion brand. Now, after their 2009 divorce, the two engaged in a protracted legal war that played out in family courts and the media. Dash lost custody of their daughters and was hit with restraining orders. Roy accused him of domestic abuse and substance abuse, while Dash claimed that Roy was manipulating the courts and, using their children as leverage. The dispute intensified when Dash filed a $2.5 million lawsuit against Roy, alleging breach of fiduciary duty and fraud related to the management of her fashion line. Now let's stop right there, because it's becoming increasingly clear exactly what's going on here and exactly what he did. Now, in case you didn't see one of my other videos, it's one about Drake against UMG, and you can check out, on the playlist. Lawsuits are expensive. Trials are even more expensive. I've spent my life doing these things, or at least a good portion of my life doing these things. And I can tell you, I haven't had a client that came out, even if they won, that was like, well, I sure am glad I spent all of that money. So at the end of the day, he done spent all his time trying to spend all this money because he thinks he's the man. And see, that's where your ego gets you. But anyway, okay, the legal and emotional toll of the conflict further damaged Dash's public image and his finances. You damn well it did. While some sympathized with his portrayal of a father shut off his children's lives, others saw him as erratic and litigious. And in 2021, Dash became embroiled in yet another legal controversy. Once again, let's go, another legal controversy, goodness gracious, involving Jay-Z and Roc-A-Fella Records. The dispute centered around an alleged attempt by Dash to sell Jay-Z's debut album, Reasonable Doubt. He was trying to sell it as a non-fungible token. And Roc-A-Fella filed a lawsuit claiming that Dash had no legal right to mint or to sell any portion of that album, which remains owned by the label. Dash denied trying to sell the album itself, claiming instead that he was attempting to sell his share of Roc-A-Fella as an NFT. A judge blocked the sale, siding with Roc-A-Fella, and the court issued a temporary restraining order and warned Dash against any future sales of the intellectual property. This guy just keeps up going in court. The incident reignited public scrutiny of Dash's business practices and revived the narrative of his ongoing feud with Jay-Z. In late 2019, Damon Dash made headlines when he was arrested in New York over unpaid child support. Dash reportedly owed more than $400,000 to two different women. He had outstanding warrants for failing to appear in court and make the required payments. Now let's back it up again, because I told you about one video that I already did. I did another video on the game. If you haven't already watched it, you can see the foolishness in that one. It seems like they just want to go on and on and on and on and on doing these same old silly things. So Dash was taken into custody, and ultimately he paid over $1 million to clear his arrears and secure his release. He could have just went ahead and paid that money if he could come up with $1 million in order to secure his release. He could have came up with $1 million to just pay those women what he owed them, or $400,000 to pay those women what he owed them. But instead, what'd he do? No, he got to mess around, and this is what happened. He later claimed that the arrest was made a public spectacle and it was meant to humiliate him, and that he was being unfairly targeted due to his celebrity status, like he's Jay-Z. However, legal documents painted a different picture, and years of unpaid child support, multiple contempt findings, and repeated failure to comply with court orders. The judge emphasized that Dash had a history of willfully ignoring the court and ignoring his court obligations. So in 2018, Dash confronted film director Lee Daniels at a public event and posted the confrontation online. Man, look, I'll tell y'all right now, I've been looking all over for that event. I don't think it's online anymore, but I sure would have liked to see it. He accused Daniels of failing to repay a $2 million loan that Dash had given him to produce earlier films like Woodsman and Shadowboxer. The video went viral, and I'm sorry I missed that one, and it reignited interest in Dash's role as a financier and independent filmmaker. Dash sued Daniels for a breach of contract. In 2019, the two reached a confidential settlement. So reportedly, it was involving a significant financial repayment to Dash. The case highlighted Dash's continued efforts to recoup lost investments and remain relevant in entertainment, even as his own finances appeared in disarray. As of 2024-25, Dash remains embroiled in legal and financial issues, ongoing IRS and state tax liabilities. Dash has stated in interviews and court filings that he continues to struggle with tax debt and that his accounts are frequently garnished. Claims of insolvency in court documents from 2023, Dash again. This dude is in court again. And he claimed that he had no liquid assets and relied on friends and partners for basic expenses. Instagram and YouTube ventures as well had Dash attempt to rebuild his brand through social media and streaming ventures like Damon Dash Studios app. He also launched a docuseries focused on his life and legal battles, hoping to control the narrative around his downfall. Dash has maintained a public presence through interviews, podcasts, and motivational speaking, often framing his legal troubles as a form of systemic persecution or as a result of standing up against powerful forces. Recently, the court ordered Dash to pay $4 million to filmmaker Josh Weber for defamation. A judge also ordered the selling of assets tied to the Dash Group, his business held entirely under his wife Raquel Horn's name, to settle a debt stemming from a 2019 copyright lawsuit. After everything was said and done, it was reported that Damon Dash, co-founder of Roc-A-Fella Records, manager for Jay-Z, executive for Rocawear clothing, film producer, actor, and entrepreneur who reached the heights of $50 million, now has a net worth of $100,000. Damon Dash's story is one of high ambition, its public success and personal decline. As a co-founder of Roc-A-Fella Records, his contributions to hip-hop and Black entrepreneurship are significant and enduring. He was a pioneer in branding, artist management, and also cross-industry ventures at a time when few in hip-hop, and especially Black men, had crossed into corporate America. Yet this post-Roc-A-Fella years have been mired in lawsuits, financial collapses, and bitter personal feuds. His confrontational style, once a business asset, has often backfired in legal settings. His ego, sense of self-righteousness, and lack of accountability hinder him every step of the way. And meanwhile, he's too busy pointing fingers at everyone around him to ever stop and take a deep look in the mirror. Dash continues to insist he is the victim of conspiracies and bias, but the legal record suggests a more complex mix of mismanagement, refusal to follow court orders, and risky financial decisions. Damon Dash remains a cautionary tale, a symbol of what happens when ambition, ego, and legal negligence collide. His legacy may ultimately depend on whether he can transform struggles into lessons for a new generation, or whether he fades from influence, burdened by debt and lawsuits he can no longer sustain or outrun. The story's not over though. We are going to see what happens to Damon Dash, and I will keep you updated. Do you think Damon Dash's ego destroyed him? Put it in the comments so you know how it go. Subscribe, like, hit the notification bell so you can know when I drop the next update. But until then, I'll talk to you later. And like I always say, what it is, what it do. Don't forget, subscribe and check out my other videos.